A monster ate 7 daughters from the same family, 1 per year, and no one could stop it. It had 8 heads, 8 tails, a body so massive it stretched across 8 valleys and 8 mountains at once. And the god who finally killed it did not swing a sword first. He got it drunk. His name was Susanoo. Days earlier, he had been thrown out of heaven in disgrace. No army, no divine weapon. Just a banished god, a grieving family, and 1 daughter left to save. What he built to kill that serpent produced a sword so sacred it still sits inside a shrine in Japan today. Untouched, unseen, guarded for over 1,000 years. This is how a disgraced storm god became one of the most important figures in Japanese mythology, and how the monster he killed became something Japan still argues about to this day. Susanoo was the storm god, brother of Amaterasu, the sun goddess who ruled the heavens, and Tsukuyomi, the moon god. All 3 were born from their father Izanagi in a single act of purification, washed into existence from his nose, his left eye, and his right eye after he fled the land of the dead. Susanoo should have ruled the sea. Instead, he wept for his dead mother with such force that mountains withered and rivers dried up. His father banished him. Before he left, he went to say goodbye to his sister in heaven. And what happened next is one of the strangest confrontations in any mythology in the world. Susanoo challenged Amaterasu to prove his intentions were pure. When the contest ended in his favor, he did not calm down. He tore up her rice fields. He desecrated her sacred harvest hall. Then he threw a flayed horse through the roof of the hall where her weaving maidens worked, and one of them died of shock on the spot. Amaterasu fled into a cave and sealed the entrance. The sun goddess hid herself and the world went dark. It took every god in heaven working together to lure her back out. When she finally emerged, the gods turned to Susanoo. He was banished a second time, this time permanently cast down from heaven itself. He descended to earth with nothing, no throne, no weapon of note, no allies. He landed in a province called Izumo on the banks of a river called the Hai, and he heard something before he saw it. Someone was weeping. An elderly couple sat at the riverbank crying. Between them stood a young woman. Susanoo asked what was wrong, and the old man, Ashinazuchi, told him a story that had been repeating for 7 straight years. Every year a creature came down from the mountains to this river. Its name was Yamata no Orochi. 8 heads, 8 tails. A body so vast it spanned 8 valleys and 8 mountain ridges at once. Moss and cypress trees grew across its back like it was a landscape rather than a living thing. Its eyes burned red. Its belly was always raw and bleeding. Ashinazuchi and his wife had 8 daughters. 7 were already gone, taken 1 per year, eaten by the serpent. The young woman standing between them, Kushinada Hime, was the 8th and the last. This was the year the serpent was coming for her. Susanoo made them an offer on the spot. He would kill the serpent. In exchange, Kushinada Hime would become his wife. The old man, desperate and out of options, agreed. Susanoo did something immediately after that revealed exactly how seriously he took the danger. He transformed Kushinada Hime into a comb and placed her in his own hair, keeping her safe against his body, hidden and protected, while he turned to face something that had already devoured 7 members of her family without effort. Susanoo did not reach for a weapon. He gave instructions for brewing sake, not ordinary sake, yashiori sake, brewed and re-brewed until it reached a strength far beyond anything normally consumed. He had the old couple build a fence around the area with 8 separate gates, 1 for each of the serpent's heads. At every gate, a platform. On every platform, a full vat of the sake. The design was precise. Yamata no Orochi had never once needed to be careful. Nothing in 7 years had resisted it. Susanoo was not trying to overpower a creature that outmatched him in raw strength. He was building something that would let the serpent do exactly what it always did, walk forward and take what it wanted, except this time what it wanted would take it apart from the inside. Then he waited. Yamata no Orochi came down from the mountains exactly as it had for 7 straight years, moving through Izumo with total confidence, because nothing in its experience had ever suggested it needed anything else. It found the fence, 8 gates, 8 platforms, 8 vats. Each of its 8 heads found a separate vat and began to drink. The Kojiki does not dwell on how long this took. It does not need to. A creature large enough to span 8 valleys, standing at 8 vats of the strongest sake ever brewed, drinking from all of them at once with the total lack of caution of something that has never once needed to be cautious. Every head went under. The serpent that had taken 7 daughters from one family without ever slowing down lay down in a drunken stupor beside the empty vats. Susanoo drew his sword, the Totsuka blade, and went to work. He moved through the body of the serpent methodically, cutting through neck after neck while the creature that had terrorized an entire province lay completely unable to respond. The high river, the Kojiki records, ran red with its blood. When Susanoo reached the 4th tail, his sword stopped. Something inside the flesh had chipped the blade. He cut carefully around it and found, buried inside the body of the monster, another sword entirely. A blade of a quality unlike anything Susanoo had ever seen, divine in a way that went beyond his own weapon. Its name would eventually become Kusanagi, the grass-cutting sword. Susanoo took it directly to Amaterasu, the sister who had cast him out of heaven, and gave it to her as an offering. It passed from her hands through generations of imperial custody and became one of the 3 sacred treasures of Japan, the objects that to this day symbolize the legitimacy of the entire imperial line. It is said to rest at Atsuta Shrine in Nagoya right now, not on display, not available for inspection, held in the innermost sanctuary, tended by priests present but unseen, the same way it has been for well over 1,000 years of recorded history. Susanoo restored Kushinada Hime from the comb in his hair, married her, and built a palace at a place called Suga. There, the god who had been thrown out of heaven twice, who had arrived in Izumo with nothing, composed what Japanese tradition holds to be the first poem ever written in the Japanese language. The story of Susanoo does not end with him becoming a clean hero. He arrives in this myth already disgraced twice over, a god whose recklessness had darkened the entire sky. What changes in Izumo is not his nature, it is what he does with it. In heaven, Susanoo's destructive force expressed itself as damage because nothing had ever asked him to point it anywhere else. On the banks of the high river, stripped of his standing and surrounded by people who needed something only he could provide, the same force built a trap precise enough to take down a monster that outmatched him completely. Yamata no Orochi itself has never fully settled into one meaning in Japanese tradition. Some scholars read it as the memory of a flooding river, its 8 branching heads mapping the 8 valleys, a real river once carved through Izumo during a real disaster. Others read it as the iron-making cultures of ancient Izumo, swallowed into the mythology of a rising imperial order. In some regions, shrines still honor Orochi itself as a kami of rain and fertility, not purely as a villain. The myth has never fully decided what the monster was. It has only ever been certain about what it took to stop it. The sword found in its body still sits inside a shrine that has stood for centuries. The god who found it went from being cast out of heaven twice to becoming one of the most honored kami in all of Japan. Celebrated every year at festivals like Kyoto's Gion Matsuri, one of the largest in the country. A banished storm god, a family out of options, and a monster that had never once needed to be careful. That combination built one of the most sacred objects in Japanese history. Susanoo never fought Yamata no Orochi in the way every other war in this season has been fought. No armies, no direct confrontation, no contest of strength against strength. He built a trap and let the monster defeat itself. The serpent never had a chance to be a monster. It got drunk and died without ever knowing what happened to it. Is that the smarter kind of courage, or does something get lost when the fight is over before your opponent even understands they are in one? Next time on Gods and Empires, we travel to the Philippines. There used to be 7 moons in the sky, not one, until a dragon rose out of the ocean and started eating them, one at a time, over hundreds of years. Only 1 moon is left. The dragon is still down there, and every single eclipse you have ever seen might be it trying to finish the job. The story of Bathala and Bakunawa is waiting,